moderator for today, and that's Decca. And Decca will proceed on. And if you want, Decca can introduce the rest of the DEI committee that's here.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I will give the floor to those DEI committee members that are here. And after they introduce themselves, then I will take over, if that is okay.
Hi, Mary Herman, and delighted to see everybody here. I'm part of the DEI committee and the DEI education committee. Thank you, Decca. Should I, Angel, you're here. Jason, you're here.
Pamela.
Oh, April.
April is here, right?
Yep.
I cannot see a lot, but that's fine. Oh, Don is here. Hey, Don.
And Jason's
I'm here.
Yeah, Pamela's here, Jason's here.
I'm here too.
Oh, there you go, Tracy. So we have a wide array of groups of participants. Really happy to do that. April is here as well. I don't know if we've said that. And so I'm really happy to be here. So back to you, Decca.
Well, thank you, and welcome everyone. The DEI committee is committed to bring speakers and provide more educational DEI to all DEO members and employees. And we meet every month, once a month. And also we have this education committee that also meets every other Wednesday, right? Which Angel chairs. And we also try to bring folks to come to us and talk to us about the work that they do. And this month we are highlighting women who are making a lot of contribution, not only to our state, but also doing a lot of work nationally and also internationally. So I'm not sure, I haven't seen Adele. Is Adele here? I see Sydney and the Commissioner Judy. Mary? Well, Adele, if you're here, good. If you're not, somebody might want to send her the link again. In recognition of International Women's Day, which was celebrated on March 8th this year, and in an effort to shine a spotlight on the achievements of women during Women's History Month, the Maine DOE again and the DEI committee and education committee subcommittee will welcome these amazing three women to discuss their work and their lives and their lived experience during our March Lunch and Learn session. Adele is a designer and a tailor. She does a lot of other things in the community. She is a person that I really know. She has a business in Portland, and she also the founder of the Women United Around the World, which both me and my daughter were models for me way back, few years back, but recently my daughter. And a nonprofit organization that celebrates advocating for and assisting women locally and globally to achieve independence through vocational training and community connections. Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, IFW, Commissioner Judy Camuso, please stop me if I did pronounce that wrongly. Thank you. Is a wildlife biologist who was promoted to the position of commissioner from her post within her department, where she previously directed the IFW Wildlife Division. Commissioner, I'm from Somalia, and Somalia has the longest, not the second longest coast in Africa. So we are surrounded by the Indian Ocean. I should talk to you more about that. Maine 2021 Teacher of the Year, Sydney Soul. Sydney, did I get your last name right? Thank you so much. It's a 4th grade teacher at the Gerald E. Talbot Community School in Portland, where she disrupts the opportunity gap through her advocacy and creation of learning and community in the classroom. And that is so important, the work that we need to do in our education systems these days to make sure we are disrupting those things and bringing the community in order for our children to grow as adults and a good, citizens in our country and also in our community. So this is going to be fun, and I'm going to be asking questions, and hopefully whoever wants to answer it, that's great. I'm not going to say Sydney or the commissioner, but whoever wants to answer it first will be really nice. What have you learned along the way in your career, and how did mentors fit in with your development in your career or area of study and your expertise? So that's mouthful. If you want me to repeat, I'll do it.
Oh, I can start there. And Decca, please call me Judy. Nobody calls me Commissioner. Okay. It's kind of a formal name. So I would say that, and I recently was on a group conversation talking about the importance of mentors and role models, in particular for women in science. And honestly, I didn't have any growing up. I had like Jane Goodall, but so she was sort of a role model, but from a really far away, right? Nobody that you actually interacted with or could reach out to or ask for guidance or advice. So I think one thing I've learned is the importance of being a role model and being available to help and taking time to make sure that people, everybody has that opportunity to have that interaction. But I think it's important to know too that, I mean, I have had a lot of really important male role models, and I've had a lot of and mentors and folks who have helped me along the way. But I think one of the struggles in my field in particular is that there weren't many or really any women in these positions before me. So it's hard to see yourself in that role when you don't see someone that looks like you in a supervisory or management or administrative position. It's hard to imagine yourself there. So although I've had some good mentors, they were never women, and they were limited because they usually were older men and probably more intimidating to me than than I hope I am for other people. So I guess I've been reflecting on this a lot lately, thinking about women sort of coming up from, earlier in their career, and what can I do to reach out and help them and make sure that they have mentors and role models that are available to them. It's a really important component, and having someone that you can go to for advice or guidance that isn't necessarily in your chain of command, so you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing or anything. It's really important, and I think it's there's a lot of opportunity there. So I guess that's enough.
That's really, oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry, Cindy. No. That is so important. And right now we're seeing a lot of young women that are doing a lot of science and the STEM world. And yep. As a scientist before them, I think there is so much opportunity to lift them up and bring them in and say, look at this young person and what we're doing, and so that you can come also and be able to do the work that we are doing, which doesn't have to be a male-dominated right. space.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Cindy, and I'm so sorry.
No, that was great. I was just super excited because Judy, I was obsessed with Jane Goodall as well. And I didn't have any mentors to look at. And I also was given the message that I was not smart enough in math, that I wasn't a strong math student. And so I shied away from it. But luckily I had a grandmother who shared with me her passions for nature and for the outdoors and for gardening. And so now as an educator, I get to share my love of the natural world with my students. And it's just been really, I was really thankful that I had my grandmother. And she also taught me about she had this huge garden, and we would collect the vegetables, and then we would go deliver it to people from her community that she felt could could benefit from having some fresh vegetables delivered to them. And it was, I think I carry her with me every day in my teaching. She did not hold a degree from high school. She was not a high school graduate. She had my dad, I think, when she was 16, and her husband had just gone to World War II. But she was amazing. She did so much in her life to change her community and contribute. And all three of her children went to college. And my dad was also an educator, so it's pretty amazing. But aside from that, I do feel like in my field, in education, the mentors who have meant the most to me are the ones who are hardest on me. I've had we partnered with Columbia University Teachers College, and this woman, Shauna Frazen, came in, and she's, from New York, and she really was just like, you can do this, you can do this. And she just kept pushing me outside of my comfort zone, including inviting me to go to New York City, where I had to take a train, a bus, this giant elevator, that I didn't even know existed when you got off subways in the Bronx. And then I had to navigate like 4 blocks in the Bronx and teach in a school in front of 25 adults watching me teach in a school that was a very different population. Even though I do teach at a very diverse school, it was mostly a Latinx school, and it was just very different. So really, I've really appreciated people who push me outside my comfort zone.
So much love to mothers and grandmothers, right? Abuelas forever. I love that. And then for me, if I may say a little bit about myself, the person that really uplifted me and made sure that I can who said that I can do anything I want to was my mother. And this is a woman who do not read or write even in her own language, but she understands the uplifting the women in our country at the time of, a lot of parents were not sending their little girls to school at all. So she had that, mindset of uplifting all girls, and especially me. So mothers and grandmothers, we owe them a lot. So thank you for that. Second question is, tell us, what do you love about your work?
Cindy, do you want to go first, or?
No, you go, and then I'll go. It's great.
I mean, I am enormously privileged, lucky. I have always done what I love, and a lot of people don't have that opportunity. I love being outside. I love nature. I love wildlife. I love animals. So I've had tremendous luck in my life, and privilege, really. And so I love most everything about, well, that might be a stretch, but and I've been, I'm not going to pretend that I haven't worked really hard, because I have. And I would say that I've worked, probably harder than I ever thought I was able to work. But mostly I love the people that I work with, and the people that I am fortunate enough to have work with me every day and make me look great. And really, we do awesome work together. They all do such great work, and they're the folks I work with, both within my agency, but even the public and the other commissioners that I work with, are so thoughtful, caring, considerate, supportive. So there's a lot of challenges with this world we're in right now, and the climate, and in being in a pandemic, and there's a lot of divisiveness, but overwhelmingly the people that I work with are enormously supportive. And it was when I became wildlife director, my whole life, my whole career was always focused on like conservation, protecting wildlife, like doing what we could for threatened and endangered species, helping populations, was always focused on the animals. And then I became wildlife director, and someone asked me, I did an interview, and they asked, what's the best part of your job? And I didn't pause. I didn't hesitate. I just said, oh, all the people that I work with. And then I was like, wait, when did that happen? When did it switch from being about the animals and the biology to being about the people that I work with? So, but in that remains true now, really. I mean, it's wonderful that I get to work in a field that I'm so passionate about, but I am equally passionate about the people that I work with and serve.
I would echo that same sentiment. Being a part of a learning community is just amazing. And I have taught at the same school for this is my 21st year, which isn't that funny? I'm the 2021 Teacher of the Year, my 21st year of teaching. I just find that really, really fun. And, but aside from that, within this larger context of a community with all these amazing, beautiful families and people that I've learned so much from, I have this tight little classroom community, and then I have my grade level team that I really work alongside with very closely. But within my classroom community, there's such joy. There's such joy in seeing students change and grow and become different people. And my goal is to have them walk out the door the very last day of school and have a new sense of strengthened identity about who they are, full of passions, full of dreams. And maybe those dreams will change. But like right now, we're in a systems engineering unit and they all are thinking they want to be engineers. I think it's wonderful. And that might change, but just the idea that there's possibilities, that they imagine themselves and they can see themselves in their future. It's just really exciting, especially for kids who lack confidence and who face considerable barriers to their learning. And it's just so joyful.
It's so nice to hear that. Coming from an immigrant community, most of the kids that are in Riverton, well, now Talbot school, community school, are, I think, mostly immigrants, and they are hearing from their homes. You cannot be an artist, you cannot be a singer, you cannot do this, but you're going to be a doctor or an engineer. So they bring in that to the classroom, but that's a good thing too. You know, let them think and let them change their minds later on. So thank you for that. Judy, you kind of touched a little bit about the challenges of the divisiveness that we have here, and the male, the female, and all of these things that we see daily basis. Tell us the challenges that you face and what helped you face them when you come across with such challenges.
Sure, yeah. So I, like Cindy, actually, my mom was really always very supportive, and I am the youngest of six. My dad died when I was very little. So my mom was a single mom, and she really just encouraged me. So she encouraged that I could do whatever I wanted. As long as I worked hard, I could do whatever I wanted. And it wasn't until I got to the workplace that I realized that my sex might be an issue, because I had never experienced that growing up. And so there are challenges. There are challenges with pay equity in this field. There are challenges with treatment, how women are treated, how we are approached. I have had, just last week I was on International Women's Day, meeting with another group of all female biologists, and the discussion, and it was amazing to me how many women experience the same thing. Because of course, for the vast majority of my career, I was the only woman that I didn't work with other women. So I didn't have anyone to talk to about this. So I thought it was just me. I didn't know all women in this field were experiencing this. And even the way you dress. So women regularly are told, biologists in particular, well, you can't look too feminine, nobody will take you seriously. I've been told I'm too aggressive, too assertive, not aggressive enough, not a team player, a downer, too enthusiastic. I am told I am absolutely the wrong person so many times by my male counterparts. I've had people assume that I've been in a full uniform, with my badges and my state truck, and been asked, is that your boyfriend or your husband's truck? Your boyfriend or husband a game warden? And I'm like, well, they give the spouses uniforms, but not the trucks. Like, come on. So I have always been shocked at the things that people say and assume. And I was even more surprised when I became commissioner, as I assumed it would stop. And I never really talked about it to anybody until I became commissioner, because I was so I felt so privileged and so lucky to have my job. And by and large, it's not the people in the agency. Most of the comments are from the public. So, but I felt so privileged to have my job, and I didn't want to upset the apple cart, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to be labeled as a troublemaker, or, and I had seen that there have been women in my agency before me that had filed complaints and their careers ended and they left the agency. They didn't want that to be my future. So I never said anything until I became commissioner. And then women, we started talking to other women, and I realized this is really pervasive throughout this conservation field, in particular, fish and wildlife biologists. So there's still a long ways to go for women, I think, in some of these fields. And when I first became commissioner, I told Governor Mills that one of my goals was to really be seen, to be visible, to be that kind of example that women that they just saw the female commissioner in fish and wildlife, that you could do this. Look, she can do this. I could do it. If she can do it, I could do it. And so I went out and I said, I'm going to be the most visible commissioner you've ever seen. And I went to every group and talked about some of my priorities. And one of them was promoting women in this field. And so I talked about some of the challenges, and every single group I talked to, men and women, came up to me and told me about their wives, their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, whomever, but these examples that were still happening. And so, I've been working to try and get a message out, like, when you see that behavior, no matter who it is, whoever is being kind of diminished or demeaned or disrespected, call out that behavior. You don't have to be rude, but let's try and move forward in a place of equity where everybody has an equal chance to do a great work and be acknowledged for it. So I think we still have a long ways to go, but I'm hopeful that the people coming up behind me have a better experience and don't have to experience the same level of discrimination and really harassment that I dealt with.
Thank you so much. That is really something I can say. I have experience as well. So thank you for that. Sydney?
Yeah, it's interesting because the education field is largely women, and but I do tend to push the boundaries of the current research, and I tend to want to move quickly, and I am very passionate, and my passion and my motivation and during my time at Riverton, now Talbot School, has been my students, because I live in Cumberland, Maine, and I would see the achievement scores from Cumberland, Maine, and then go to teach at a school where the students were just as smart, just as able to do the work, but there was something that I couldn't figure out, why students in Cumberland, Maine can show their knowledge on these MAAs and students in Portland, the students that I was teaching with language barriers and all those things. Now, there are things about the test, but I have just been on a mission, and there have been times where, the way that my data has looked, being a high performing teacher has caused similar reactions from other colleagues, where it's like, oh, she's just too much. She's too enthusiastic. She just works too hard. Or, particularly now in the equity work, I'm continually, using my voice. And I have been this year told that I was aggressive about the equity work and speaking up for our students. And an example of that is our intervention practices. So in schools, like where I work, we recognize that some students need more. And what ends up happening is those students get the individualized instruction, but it's during core instruction. So they're being denied opportunities to have the same direct core instruction in areas like science and other things. And there's so much effort, and staff is so great about, being positive with students. It's not about the people who are taking the students to work with them. It's about the practice of denying students opportunities to receive direct core instruction. If they need more, we need to figure out a way to look at that practice to identify how can we give these students more. We need to be thinking about the system of the school day and how can we recognize that Black and brown students are underperforming white students, they're more advantaged peers in this nation by a very wide gap. And so that passion is what's motivating me, and I continue to speak up, but it can be really challenging. And I think luckily I have colleagues and people who share the same beliefs, and I am part of an equity and literacy K to 12 team in Portland. I have the amazing Maine Teacher of the Year network, which has been so supportive of this work and the social justice work. And so it's been incredible to have those people when those moments happen that you can connect with, and you know, they're like, no, you're doing the right thing. Keep going, keep using your voice. And it's for the students. So it can be challenging, but it also is incredibly rewarding. And sounds like, Judy, you've really worked through, and here you are in this amazing position of leadership. I will share with you, my daughter is graduating from Franklin and Marshall as a ecology major. So she actually wants to be a teacher, but I think it's, you know, but she was a science girl. So it's just really fun to hear your perspective of your career. Who knows what she'll do, but it's just really fun.
Yeah. I'll just add on to that, Cindy, because you touched on something that is, I think, still a struggle with us here, and sort of in performance issues. And so in the Fisheries, Wildlife, and Warden Service, my agency is 80%, 83% men. And so I worked with another group of directors just looking at this issue and why and this is across the country, it's a very similar dynamics. And so I met with a few college professors, and they indicated that, you know, in their schools, really the undergraduates and graduates were almost 50-50. So the sex ratio was much closer to 50-50, but still state agencies weren't getting the female recruitment. And so I reached out to the University of Maine here. And likewise, we have actually, it's about 52 to 53% of the undergraduate students with fisheries and wildlife degrees are women. Likewise, at graduate and PhDs, it's almost 50-50, and the same leaning heavy toward women. So then I looked at, okay, well, why aren't they applying here? Why aren't they looking? Why aren't we getting them here? And lo and behold, well, about 50% of our applicants were women, but they weren't getting interviews. And so, of course, they were being reviewed by a panel of men, and we all have biases, right? So there's no problem. Nobody was flawed. Nobody's intentionally doing anything, but there was a bias there that we hadn't recognized. And likewise, once we selected an interview panel, by and large, the folks that were going to be interviewed, the interview panel was almost entirely men. And so I asked myself, do you think women are underperforming when they're facing an interview of 5 men? And do you think the male counterparts are overperforming because they're facing an interview of peers? And so I just changed the policy and said, from now on, there's going to be gender equity in reviewing who gets interviewed and who sits on the panel. And, you know, we haven't hired that many people since then, but we've had a much more diverse pool of people being interviewed. We just hired 2 female game wardens. So I'm hopeful that there are like little things we can do like that to look at some data, make some adjustments in policy, and kind of course correct a little bit.
Thank you, Judy. That's absolutely wonderful. And Sydney, thank you also for bringing that up for the equity piece and, you know, the challenges that marginalized students are going through. And this achievement gap is even getting bigger and they are underperforming because of COVID-19 as well. So that is also making it bigger for the gap. I am hearing that Adele is here now. Adele, if you can please come up and talk about a little bit about what you do and the work that you have been doing in Maine. We talked about a little bit about the Women Around the World, the nonprofit organization you created. And also I would like to hear what you did when COVID hit first time. And I remember you making masks, and I was one of the recipients of such a beautiful mask from you. So welcome, please.
Thank you that I can be off video, please. Can I be off video?
Yes, if you
Okay.
like, please. That's fine. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I came in late. My name is Adele Ngoy. I'm an immigrant here from Republic Democratic of Congo. And I'm a fashion designer by profession. And I'm a founder of the organization of women called Women United Around the World. I started that organization like 12 years ago. Since I came as an immigrant, and the integration for me was kind of very hard. And after many years of experience being here, I created the organization so I can help other women who come here as an immigrant, so the integration could make it a little bit easy by teaching them, giving them some job, teaching them sewing so they can find job in the city. It can be easy than working at the hotel or the manufacturing. And because we have so many immigrant women who come here with high profession from the country of origin, but when they arrive here, they can't work because they don't have the degree from here. And that was a part for them to find a kind of a better job. And beside that, when the COVID started, and because with my company I have now, I own Untitled Shop on Congress Street. I was like, people, this mask thing was needed, and I just jump in, start making masks and give them for free for all around in the community, in the nursing home, and all the people need it. And that's what we start doing.
Thank you so much for that, Adele. And we are in the middle of our questions, so you can jump in at any time and respond to them as our other panelists were doing. So my other question is, what advice do you give to your students, your interns, or other young people who are interested in pursuing studies or employment in your profession or in your departments?
Yeah, the advice I give young people, I want them to get the right training, to be patient with themselves, to learn fully, and to be well, to have a great experience for beside they jump into the profession. They need to take time to learn, because it's so vast. There is a lot of stuff to learn around my field, like fashion design. You have a lot to learn. You need a lot of patience, a lot of practice, and to be open-minded, and just to have a courage when you feel like you are ready. Just start and do it, because you can have idea, and if you don't do it, it's never gonna happen. Just when you have the full training, just do it.
I love that you said you need about the patience. Be patient with yourself. It's so important. And I have to remind my students in my classroom of that all the time, and to lean into the discomfort of something being challenging for you. And I also remind my students that, in life there will be dream stealers, but we read a lot of biographies of really incredible people like Dizzy Arnaz, people like Wangari Maathai, people who have changed their communities by never letting those dream stealers take their dreams away. And we learn a lot about perseverance and determination. And that's true of my student interns too. Walking into the classroom, my student interns have always been struck by how hard it is. And my biggest piece of advice for new teachers is the relationship. Building a classroom community. For me, that is such a critical component of learning, for students to feel safe and welcome and able to take risks. And you can learn the content and you can learn the academics, and those things are so important. But if that foundational layer of a classroom community does not exist, all of that work that you've put in to becoming an expert in the content is not going to be as effective.
I'm not sure I could add much to this, but I will just say I really resonate where the concept of being patient is. I think something that I stress with younger folks and my nieces and nephews, and just being kind to yourself. And I think we're often so hard on ourselves and so critical of where we are compared to where our peers are, and give yourself a little grace and be patient. But the most important advice I give to people is just find your passion and do what you love, and you will be great at it because you'll love it. And so I know a lot of folks just go into a certain field for financial gain or status, or but they struggle because it's not really what they're passionate about. And so the advice I give to folks, whether you're going into teaching or engineering or wildlife biology or forestry, like, be passionate about what you're going to do. This a lot. You're going to be doing this day in and day out for arguably years on end. So find what you really love and what gives you, well, I would say, like, your personal why I do this, why I come to work, why I show up every day. What's your personal why? And then once you identify that, I think other things fall into place.
That is absolutely great. And I appreciate you, Judy, talking about how you're reaching out and changing policies to make sure women have a voice. And you are equalizing, that's not even a word, making equal when it comes to interviewing women and not having, all male, experienced, not saying anything bad about the men, but that is very intimidating. Seeing somebody who looks like you always is also a bonus. And it happens to me a lot when I am applying for jobs. The most of the people that are interviewing me are all white. And I don't show my intimidation and my, uncomfortableness because I kind of hide it. And I smile a lot, I talk a lot, I engage a lot. So that kind of helps me. And that is a way of, putting blocks of faces of people and just saying what comes from the heart. So I appreciate you changing those policies. So life is not all about work, right? What activities outside of work sustains you, and what, self-care you are doing to yourselves or for yourselves?
Well, I'll start because that's my forte. I'm very good at playing. No, in all seriousness, I happen to work in a field that is also what I like to do in my free time. So I spend a lot of time out in the woods and on the lakes and the waters of the state. And I think it was really it sort of like hit a pinnacle right after the pandemic hit. And even to just go to the grocery store was such a stressful experience. To go into those, like we were in a war, and not something I've lived through. And go into the store and everybody's uncomfortable and masked, and nobody's looking at each other, and the shelves were bare, and it was a lot of stress. And so I would plan every time I had to go to the grocery store that I would go for a 45-minute walk outside after, because that's how I would de-stress. And I would go outside, and it was, March, April. So birds were coming back, migrating back. And I'm like, oh, red-winged blackbirds are back, and things are coming back on their normal cycle. And I'm like, okay, things in the natural world are normal. Life is going to be okay. You're going to get through this. We're all going to get through this. Life is going to be okay. And so for me, being outside and connecting with nature is always how I de-stress, and I sort of calm myself. I do exercise a lot. That's for my mental, to keep my brain manage stress. But I get most of my fun and balance from birding and hiking and fishing and just being outside. And I, in the past couple of years, I took up hunting. And what I actually like the most about hunting is that in order to be a successful hunter, you have to be quiet. and you can't have your device on. So you go outside in the woods and you're quiet. And there's not much space for that in the world now. Like there's not many times when we are quiet and you sit and you reflect, and like I can feel my blood pressure in my body just de-stress and calm and relax. And it's like meditation outside. And so I am a big proponent of work-life balance and making sure that people have time to connect with families and to get outside and do things. It's not all about work in this world. And I really value my time apart from the office and with my friends and my family. And I encourage our staff. We regularly talk about, on our staff meetings, like what birds people saw this past week or what have they done outside. And so I actually have a hashtag following opt out every day. I encourage people to get outside every day to help with stress, to connect with the natural world. And I believe that people protect what they care about. So I want more people to care about fish and wildlife of the state and the environments that they live in. So I spend a lot of time outside.
That's awesome. I
And with my dog. Sorry.
I have dogs too. I recently heard somebody refer to my practice of getting out in nature every day as my nature bath. And that really resonated with me. So sounds like we have a lot of the same practices and habits. I also do try to read and do a little journal writing. Someone gave me a tip to write like 5 things of gratitude down each day. And that's a practice that really helps me stay grounded, and especially in times like this where there's so many challenges. But to show my love of the outdoors, I have visited 27 national parks. We've done 2 cross-country treks with our 3 children. Sierra, who's now 17, was 6 the first time we went, and then my older 2 were thinking 7th grade and 8th grade the first trip, and then again we did it when they were in high school. So I enjoy seeing beautiful places and hiking, and the challenge of just doing a new hike that might have some obstacle for some different form, because I actually really don't like heights, but I did not hike Angel's Landing when I was in Zion. I will say that, if anybody knows of that hike, I did not do that, but I did do the Narrows, which was up this huge gorge, and it was amazing to feel so tiny in this amazing world in an environment that was very different than Maine. And I also do try and practice yoga, although that's usually one thing that that gets taken off my list if I have too many things to do, but it is something that I love as well.
Adele? Thank you.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So did you hear the question, Adele? I'm so sorry.
Can you please repeat the question for me?
So the question is, life is not all about work. What fun things do you do to balance work and, fun times? What do you love to do?
Okay, what I love to do. Look like I work all the time because everything is around about my work. I like to hang out with friends. I know a lot of people. I like to talk to people, recently I engaged myself to talk a lot with young women, young millennials. I like to share my experience with them. I like to encourage them. I like to tell them whatever they want to do, they can do it if they put all the focus in it. Just to encourage young people. I spend more time talking to people, young women, and to educate them through my own experience, sharing my own experience with them, and just to encourage them. What else I do? I work every day, like 8 to 6. I like to cook. When I'm home, I cook, and I think I spend most time around my work. Everything's around my work, working with the community, working at my job, work with young people. And my church, I spend time with, I'm engaged at my church. I spend a lot of time there too, especially for weekends. I do a lot of work at church, working with young women in the at church.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely great. And me and you see each other always in the community lifting. Yeah. So thank you for all you do. Thank you. And
Thank you.
Self-care is the most important thing. And don't tell my boss, he's here. I don't do a lot of that, but he always telling me, Rich, where is he? He's somewhere. Rich always says, you all need to go out and have some, walk around, and it's sunny out, but we got too much work to do. So sometimes we forget about that, but thank you. Last question, and then we will open for questions for this amazing woman that we have today. In this month of Women's History, what's your wish for girls and women today?
I want all of my students to be able to go forward in the world with, the tools and skills and resources that they need to accomplish whatever and feel the confidence and feel the self-belief that they need to go out and just go for their goals. And I just, again, I'll say again about the dream stealers. Like, I just want my young ladies to be equipped with like fierce skills to not let those people's opinions or whatever get into their head and stop them from pursuing their dreams.
Yeah, I think that's great, Cindy. And I guess I would just add that I would like for women to, we've actually talked about having applications or processes that there's the names withheld so that they have just an equal chance, and that you're judged based on your performance and your skills and your knowledge. And so that's sort of the workplace. But on a personal level, I and this is true for all people, but I hope we could get to a place where we judge people based on what kind of person they are, what they contribute, how nice they are, not a little bit less on how they look or what size they are. And it doesn't matter what size or shape or color you are. What we should judge people on, men and women, are what kind of people they are. What do you give back? How do you treat other people? So I guess moving forward, that would be my hope, that that's the bar that we measure people by.
I can say for me, for this month of women and go forward, I would like to see change. I would like to see change, like as a leader in the community. Sometimes we always, as a women, we say empowering women, but I feel like we don't empower others enough, like we empower ourselves. I feel like we need to empower more women, the women who don't have voice, the less fortunate, to have access to what we do, to empower them more by including them and to be involved for what we do in the community and for themselves, by giving them the tools they need, like more training and more access to what women really need. I feel like we are not doing enough. I'm talking as myself as a leader. I think like we are doing, even though I feel like I work all the time, but I feel like we are not doing enough to empower other women. I would like to see more change and more inclusive, to include more women, especially as an immigrant, to including more immigrants in the community, like in our community, including more immigrant women for what we do, the work we do every day. I would like to see that change go forward.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All three of you, you gave us diverse worlds of your worlds, and now we are so enriched by that. And now I open for questions. Anybody in the audience who have questions? We got only 7 minutes, is it, Jason? So let's just open for questions, and thank you again so much for coming in and allowing us to talk to you today.
Hi, this isn't a question, but this is something I've wanted to share with Judy for like 2 years now. When she first started, she did an interview on MPBN, and I just thought it was so inspiring as a woman. And then I met the Commissioner of Education, and then the governor spoke at the superintendent's conference that June. And right after that, I said, "This is an administration I want to work for." And it started with the interview I heard with you on MPBN. So you've been inspiring for some time now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Women breaking ceiling glasses, right?
And very deliberate. I appreciate how transparent and deliberate Judy and the administration has been about that.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to hear. Sometimes it is a struggle, you know, you don't know if you're doing the right thing or taking the right approach, and you're vulnerable and open to, you know, all kinds of mistakes. Every day I make mistakes, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, my daughter was in the car with me, so it was,
Okay.
yeah, she was 7 or 8 at the time. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you all for coming, all three of you for coming. Just so interesting and inspirational stuff from you all. Judy, just wanted to kind of highlight this. I think, you know, your trend setting as commissioner in this position is wonderful. Just the Secretary of the Interior, you know, that appointment and approval was such a uplifting experience as well for so many of us that, you know, want to see the right person in the job, regardless of their
Right.
background, their sex, their race, their what have you. So keep going.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yes, to that end, Judy, I'd love to have you as a guest in my classroom for 4th graders.
I'd love to. Yeah. I actually read to a group of, I think I was more nervous about this than like anything I did. I had to read a chapter of Alone in the Woods of Maine, and I was so nervous. The kids were so great. I had so much fun. It was awesome. I loved it. Be happy to.
Judy, I'm working with the, I don't know if you've heard of the Moose modules that have been
Oh, yep.
created from the Department of Education. And one of my 3rd grade teams is having 3rd graders create a conservation plan. So I told them they should reach out to you. So you may be getting an email.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Yeah. And I think we worked with Commissioner Macon a little bit on that, trying to help any way we could. So we'd be happy to review those plans and provide feedback or whatever. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say thank you to everyone for coming today and for joining and inviting me. I feel so honored to be here, and I was nervous to be here with so many esteemed people. So I appreciate how welcoming you all are, and I appreciate the invitation.
Well, thank you. If we do not have any more questions, how long do we have, Jason? Which is the time's up, or 2 minutes? But I have a quick question, Judy, and as I stated earlier, Somalia has the 2nd longest coastline in Africa, and we have a lot of people who have their backgrounds about, you know, fisheries. Their lives, it depends on that, and also farming. And now you saw that there are so many Somalis in the Lewiston area who have, you know, farms. Do you have any strategy or ways that you have to do outreach to those communities who may otherwise do not even know we have a wildlife and inland fisheries in our state, and say that, hey, come to us, do an internship with us, and
Right.
maybe at the end of the day may get a job at, you know, at the wildlife fisheries?
So one of my big goals as commissioner is to trying to reach out to a broader audience and to connect with people of all different backgrounds in the state. And so I sort of switched up in the very quickly. I restructured the department a little bit so that we had a much stronger information and education division, with the goal in particular to reach out to broader groups. And one of the first places we actually started with was the Department of Health and Human Services to work with women who were victims of domestic assault or sexual violence, and to try and give them some outdoor skills that they could have kind of lifelong, just to help them cope and regain some of their strength back. So we'll continue to work on that. And, you know, another one of the things that we try to do, or we're trying to do, is to provide access to the outdoors in more urban areas, so that people in the Lewiston, Auburn area have some place to go where they can fish or walk or get out in the woods, where, right, you know, that not everybody's going to jump up to the North Main woods, right? So like give people places near where they live so they have opportunities to get outside and have access to the outdoors, and then can learn more about the things we do and how they can engage with us. I see there's lots of things in the chat, but
it's appreciation and thanks, a lot of thanks. So I gave it to Angel to close us out.
I wanted to thank everybody for coming out, Judy, Cindy, and Adele for being part of our seminar this afternoon, and also the colleagues. I want to thank you for participating and staying with us throughout this whole year, and just kind of looking at that these are opportunities for you to reflect and to think about different experiences, and also think about how we can reach out and connect and make the world better and nicer and more enjoyable. And so big thanks to everybody on the virtual fifth floor, as we're calling it now. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And remember, next month we have another speaker, and in May, that would be April and May, we have the speaker, and along in June as well. Okay, well, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Have a great day.
thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.